At 40,
It's like 30 to 45.
30.
I thought it
Here's
was
the
like
book
20 to
says.
40 or something.
Depending who's writing the book, it's 0 to 40. Okay? In the real world, it's 20 to 40. Because once you're below 20, you're in ventricular fibrillation. The heart's not going to really beat below 20. Maybe for a minute or 30 seconds, 20 seconds, but it's not going to beat below 20. So 0 to 60, 40 to 60, 20 to 40. Okay? So far, so good?
Yeah.
Why does it work like that? Well, your primary pacemaker of the heart is the SA node, right? The sinoatrial node. Think of the SA node as it's the boss, right? The owner of the company. So
End of the train tracks.
the owner is going to work and work and work and work. The physiology, Marshukova, Marshukova, she made a really good analogy. You have the cars, and the cars are all in the line on the straight, right? And this guy's going at 60 miles an hour. Since he's going at 60 miles an hour, he's pulling all the other cars. But if this guy crashes and burns, whatever happens, this guy, he can only go 40 miles an hour, so then he's going to pull these guys. These guys are going 20 miles an hour, so that's the fastest we can get. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. I look at it as this guy is the owner of the company. He's going to work and work and work and work and work forever, right? He owns the company, right? But when he goes home, as you know, gets sick, who takes over? Well, the manager. The manager's going to work 40 to 60. He's going to work, he's going to work, he's going to look around, he's going to say, shit, man, the boss ain't here, I'm going home. So who are you left with? The stock boy. The stock boy's going to say, shit, the manager's gone, owner's gone, I'm out of here. So the SA will fire forever. Forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. If something happens, the AV node kicks in. And he'll work for, I'm making up numbers, 2 hours. Once he goes home for the day, Purkinje's kick in at 20 to 40. They last, stock boy's like, shit, man, no one's here? He's out of here. So they'll work for whatever, let's say 20 minutes, and then we're in ventricular fibrillation, which I'll get to, and then we're basically dead. So far, so good? Make sense?
What was the 0 to 40? What'd you mention about that?
The book says 0 to 40.
Oh, okay.
Realistically, it's 20 to 40, because below 20, we're not going to have a heart rate. The heart's just going to be kind of doing this. So, what does a normal rhythm look like? Or what does the heart do in a normal rhythm? This is my favorite part. Right? Come on, give it a shot.
Can I get you on camera doing
Yeah.
that?
Everyone's like... Right, okay. Right. 20 to 40, ventricular fibrillation, or below 20, heart's doing this, quivering, shaking. You're going to do that all night long now. You're gonna... Heart's going to do this, quivering, shaking, like it's cold. Here, do you have a heartbeat? Do you have cardiac output? Right?
Yes.
Here, do you have a heartbeat? Do you have cardiac output? No. You have contractile force, but you don't have enough of it, right? So here, you're in that 0 to 20 range, VFib. So what's your heart rate here?
0.
0. Zero heartbeat, right? Okay. With that being said.
So you won't have any heartbeat?
Heart rate will be 0.
With the Purkinje, yeah.
Right? Purkinje's will be 20 to 40, somewhere there. Here, you don't have a beat.
So with AFib, you stop working too?
AFib, the top is doing this and the bottom is doing this. Heart rate is measured by the top or the bottom. Always the bottom. It's always the ventricular rate, right? So we'll get to AFib. We can consider that an SVT. All right, so let's start with the stuff. Right? Looks normal?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In a normal rhythm, what are you looking at? What are the few things? We look at this guy? Right? P wave, cool. Oh no, this is the QRS.
Oh, the PR.
What is that?
PR interval. And then, I never really draw T waves, because T waves to me don't really matter. The only time I'll ever look at a T wave is if it's a heart attack, and we're not doing a heart attack, so T waves I never draw. But that'd be the T wave, okay? The P wave, we look for a few things. Number one, you want it to be upright. Okay? 2, you want it to be round. Right? 3, you want it to be regular. What does that mean?
Happens around the same time every time.
yeah, it happens around the same time. For the most part, I get it, my drawing's not great, but for the most part, they all look the same. You don't have something like this, and something like that, right, and something like that. Right, the P waves all, for the most part, look the same. They're regular. We call it, they march out. What does that mean? That means that from the P to the P, they're all equidistant. The length, the spacing should all be the same. Within reason, you know, we breathe in, we breathe out, it changes our heart rate a little bit, but within reason, they should all be the same, which they are, okay? So they're upright, they're round, they're regular, they march out, okay? P wave. If it meets those criteria, the P wave checks out. So far, so good, okay? Next, what do we have? Right? What are the few things that we look for in the PR interval? Okay, so you want to do regular, good. Regular is always a good thing, right? Okay.
No?
Distance. What do you want the distance to be?
Equidistant.
0 or less than?
Oh.
Which one's less than? Maybe less than 0.2. Or that's one big box. Right, you remember the little boxes, or what is it? 0.04, so what is that? Five
5.
big boxes, 0.02. So in the box you have good enough. Good enough. So if you had a P wave that looked like this, where the PR interval in the QRS was all the way out there, long, right? You had your box. That's the better way to do it, right? So that.
It's true. I do like it, but that's.
What happened? Right. So you had your PR interval that looked like that. What does that tell us? It's less than one big box. Okay? He got into P waves being too short, all that stuff. Okay, fine, whatever. But less than one big box is the criteria, or at 0.2. Okay?
What's supposed to be less than 0.12 or about 0.12?
The duration of the PR interval.
Okay.
Okay? So less than 0.2, which is seconds.
Okay.
Right, so again, if we had our box that looked like that, good enough, right? It's less than that one big box. One big box is 0.2.
I think she was talking about the criteria for the 0.12, which I think is the QRS.
Oh,
right?
QRS. I was
Yeah.
forgetting which one it went to.
Okay. Which brings us to the next point, right? So we have the P wave, we have the PR interval, and you have the QRS. Now it should,
Segment, not interval.
we're gonna do a PR interval. I don't, it may be segment, maybe. My
Remember
definitions
PR.
aren't great. PR, yeah.
Just because I thought the PR interval would be from one P to the next P, and that's the interval, or like a whole QRS, and then the segment is just interval.
Sure. My definitions aren't great. I can look
I
at it and say it
don't,
is.
I don't know, I'm just.
I may be wrong, I'm pretty sure it's PR interval. Pretty sure.
If it includes the P wave, I believe it's interval. If it's just this, between the end of the P wave,
Yeah.
beginning of the QR wave, it's
Maybe
the
so.
PR
And
segment.
then
So your QRS should actually, right, you're gonna have that little dip first. If I draw fast. So you have the Q, right, R, S, and then the repolarization. Right, makes sense? So, Q, R, S. It's the QRS what?
Complex?
Complex. Okay, so the PR interval, come back to that. Everything checked out, right? Check. So far, so good. QRS, what do we look for? Well, again, regular. You don't want like all this nonsense when you have your, right, then you have,
That was an accident.
right, whatever it is, right? They all look the same. Is that right? You gonna learn something?
I just came for
Mini lecture.
So they all, you want them to all look the same, and for the most part, they do. Alright, so regular. What is the distance that we're looking for here?
Is that the point?
Point 1 to point 1 2 or something?
Right, what is it, 0.04 to, actually no, it's wrong. 0.08 to 0.12. Or, so we had the PR interval at 0.2, so here you want less than, draw it out, write it out, less than 3 small boxes. Right? Within reason. If your boxes are here, and your QRS was 1, that came out wrong. I wanted to draw it larger, but let's say the QRS came to whatever, right there, and your boxes, and right there. You guys get where I'm going with this. If it was just over the length of the 3 boxes, it's close enough. You know, oh, well, it's exactly 0.01 past the 3. Oh, it's a Y complex. No, as long as it's in reason, right? Here's the difference. You have a normal, and you have a Y. So a substantial difference, right? Makes sense? Okay. So regular, 0.08 to 0.12, less than 3 small boxes, and the big thing, like always, is the interval between them. So you want them all equidistant. Again, you want them to, I know my handwriting sucks at these words. You want them to march out. So far so good? Cool? You with me? Okay. So, those check out, check. So our P wave is good, PR interval is good, QRS is good. The distance between them is all the same, so the Q wave or the QRS complex gets a check. What else do we look for? So we have 1, we have 2, we have 3, 4. The rhythm itself, we want it to be regular. Right? So picture a heart block for a second. Is that rhythm regular? No, you have P waves everywhere, you have QRSs everywhere, they're getting bigger, they're longer, they're dropping, all this crazy stuff is going on. For the most part, is this regular? There's some differences in the complexes, in the length, but for the most part, you would say that the rhythm is regular. It all looks the same, right? Okay, cool, check. 5 is the rate. Okay. Let's say this guy is, let's make it simple, he's 74 beats per minute. Going back to, if he's at 74 beats per minute, where in the heart is it coming from?
The essay, no.
Same. 60 to 100, so 74 checks. Rate checks. If everything checks out, you have a normal rhythm. Make sense? So, what's a normal rhythm? Well, you can't, oh, it's normal. Well, no. What is it called? What's that? What's NSR?
Normal sinus rhythm.
Makes sense, right? If one of these things does not check out, you do not have a normal sinus rhythm. P wave is good, QRS is good, PR interval is good, the rate's good, everything is good, you have a normal sinus rhythm. If I put an EKG on any one of us, chances are it would be a normal sinus rhythm. What do you do for someone with a normal sinus rhythm? Give them a high five, good job, we're cool, right? If things are not normal, well now we'll talk about that. So far so good? Make sense? Okay. Helpful?
Mm-hmm.
Very good.
My rhythm skills are limited, but you could have like strange things going on, like within a normal sinus rhythm. Like you could have that's totally exaggerated, but they could show you something on an EKG with a T wave that's through the roof. And you're gonna look at it, I don't know what it is, whatever, but again, you're gonna break it down part by part. Well, P wave looks good, PR interval looks good, QRS complex looks good. T wave, who cares about? We're not looking for MIs right now, heart attacks, right? So you're gonna break it down piece by piece by piece. This P wave looks good, QRS looks good, QRO looks good, we're good. So, let's say, had something like this. Let's say we had a heart rate of 45. Well, let's break it down a little bit. First thing, what are we going to look for?
P wave?
P wave. What are we going to look for in the P wave?
It's round.
It's round, okay. Yeah, for the most part. That one down there doesn't look so round, but again, bad drawing, right? It's round. Cool.
Upward.
It's upright.
Upright.
Upright, points upright. What else?
March out.
It's marching out, okay, so they're all equidistant, right? It's right distance. Anything else?
The one block.
Yeah. Well, that's the pure interval, so I was just like quick to say yes.
Oh.
Okay. But for the most part, if we're missing one, it's fine, but it's upright, it's round, it's regular, that's what we missed, it's regular, right? The P wave looks good, right? Agree? Okay.
How many
break it down.
blocks should the P wave be? Like you said, the QRS is 0.08 to 1.2 and the segment.
Hold that thought, because that has to do with atrial enlargement, or the atrial hypertrophy, hold that thought.
Okay.
Okay. So next we have the PR interval, right? PR interval, what do we have?
Regular,
Regular, okay.
less than 0.26.
Okay, so it's less than, it should be less than 1 big box, right? There is a PR interval, it's not too short, it's not too long, they're all give or take within the same distance. There's not one that's like this, and then one that's like this, and one that's like that. For the most part, they all look about the same, right? Agree? So PR interval, pass or fail?
Pass.
Pass.
Okay, cool. Next, what are we looking for in the QRS?
Width?
Okay, regular, equidistant. Well, how many boxes?
3 boxes, not bigger than.
Less than 3 small boxes. So what is that? 0.082.
0.1.
Okay. What it should be. I'll draw them better going forward. Regular.
Yes.
The rhythm itself is irregular.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that. It should be regular, right? So they're all the P's are all equidistant. The rest are equidistant, so the rhythm itself is a regular rhythm. Cool. Rate.
It's slow.
It's
We're
slow.
having bradycardia.
Okay. Close. I think key is short, right? So, but the rate, pass or fail.
Fail.
Fail. Okay. So this tells us those are good, right? These tell us we have a sinus rhythm. The first 4 say, yeah, we have a sinus rhythm. The rate tells us it's slow.
Yeah.
Slow is
Brady.
what? Brady. So you you don't have a normal sinus rhythm. What do you have? Sinus. Brady. Sinus bradycardia. Make sense?
Do we know
Mhm.
that?
No. I
I know
think
what you're
he.
saying, I know, I'm familiar with the word, but I don't remember seeing it in the book.
I doubt it. The book's strange.
Hmm.
You know, the
I think
book.
I think it's in this chapter that we're
I think
reading.
it's in this chapter.
This chapter's
Yeah.
fast stuff. Supraventricular, fast, above the
No,
ventricles.
before we even get into supra.
Yeah, it tells you about the
talks
different
about
heart
it.
cycles.
Stuff. Okay. But remember, you had, right, 60 to 100. You're below 60, you're 45. So it's sinus, Brady, okay? What do you do, this I know we didn't cover, but what do you do for sinus bradycardia? Well, actually, you have 2 types of sinus bradycardia, you have 2 types of everything. You have stable and unstable. This dude's a marathon runner. What are you going to do?
Stable.
Who cares? Right? It's better cardiac output than all of us put together, right? So If it's bad, so let's say his blood pressure is, I don't know, 70 over 40. Might as well, it might be on the test. Might as well talk about it from what I got from the second years, right? Good or bad?
It's bad.
It's bad. I want to speed it up, right? You want to take a stab at what drug you're going to give? What did we learn in physio?
Epinephrine.
You could do an epi infusion at 2 to 10 micrograms
Was that from the
per
drug
minute.
sheet?
That's fine. Up here. A little aggressive for my liking, but you could. Probably, but I don't know the dose on that one. What else did you get? What
Epinephrine, the same thing.
Was it ketamine? That increases score?
Wait, they make the guy like some special cane. What about parasympathetic stuff? So you would agree right here that we have too much parasympathetic tone, right?
Right.
Did I know she talked about it in physio. She talked about it for other stuff. What drug? You could do a norepi drip at 2 to 10 micrograms per kilogram. A little aggressive for my liking, but you could do that. Okay, you want something that's going to. Okay. Right. Atropine.
Oh.
Right. You can give atropine for bradycardic. You can give atropine for a lot of stuff. You can give atropine for bradycardic rhythms.
How do you spell that?
A-T-R-O-P-I-N.
What does atropine do?
Atropine is a parasympathiolytic. It blocks the parasympathetic nervous system. Okay.
Remember, that's when she said it will dilate your eyes. Were the girls in France that makes them their eyes
Oh,
they
yeah.
were blind. That was atropine.
They are a parasympathetic.
Don't ask me to spell that one. Parasympathiolytic. It blocks the parasympathetic nervous system. Okay. So you want to speed it up, right? You could give epi. Epi is a sympathomimetic. It increases sympathetic tone, so it directly stimulates the sympathetic nervous system. Atropine indirectly stimulates the sympathetic nervous system by pushing down the parasympathetic, right? Do you remember the major nerve of the parasympathetic nervous system?
Vegas.
Vagus. X, right? Your 10th cranial nerve, X. Okay. Dose for atropine, just going to throw it out there, 0.5 milligrams, max 3 milligrams, or no one's ever going to use this, 0.17 milligrams per kilogram. But it's good stuff to know. That's your max dose for atropine. Okay? Unless there's other things going on, which we're not going to talk about now. Okay, makes sense? Sinus Brady? Cool? So rest are good?
I have a question.
Go for it.
So it's 45. Would you say the AV node is firing or the Purkinje fiber, whatever?
No. When you're in junctional rhythms or nodal rhythms, you have other things going on. These 4 tell us it's still sinus.
Oh,
It's
okay,
still
great.
coming from the sinal atrial node. The rate tells us, well, there's something wrong with the sinal atrial node. If we don't catch it, it may start coming from here. But the first 4 tell us it's from the sinus. They all pass.
Is it, you were gonna ask something?
No, I was thinking. Because it's coming from a different part of the heart, so the EKG will look different if it's
Correct.
coming from there.
My
Makes
question
sense.
is, how do I know
Like the direction
it's
stuff.
a bad versus good?
Blood pressure.
So that's 70 over 40.
That sucks. Yeah. Blood pressure, shortness of breath, cool, pale, clammy skin, chest pain.
I guess you can look at an athlete versus somebody
Yeah,
who
if
is,
he's an athlete with his blood pressure at 70
Yeah.
over 40 is still bad,
Yeah.
regardless of if you're an athlete or not.
How do you feel? I feel great. Cool. How do you feel?
Yeah.
Right.
If it's like an 80-year-old.
Wait.
person.
I got that.
Good. Cool.
Yep.
Look at that thing.
All right, let's see if I can try this.
Hey, no, it's good to me.
No, I need to do something different though. Well, what's the first thing you notice? Hey, hold on.
They're
You're
close
right,
together.
but hold that thought, right?
Just be with.
Too many?
Okay.
They're very short in the distance.
The distance, it's much closer together, right? So that tells us it must be tachycardia. It's fast, right? So, let's say we have a heart rate of 112. Okay, coming back to this, which I draw all the time. Right? We wanted 60 to 100. Okay, so let's do our check. I'm not going to write it out. P wave. What do we have?
Upright.
It's upright, it's regular, they're equidistant, okay, cool.
March out or whatever.
There's a P before every Q, they march out, okay. The P waves are there, cool. Well,
Pure interval.
pure interval. Less than one, obviously definitely less than one big box, right? If this was a real rhythm strip, you might say, well, it's too close together. Okay. My artistic skills are fair at best, so whatever. Okay. Pure interval, less than one big box, less than 0.2. There is a pure interval. The pure interval looks the same. All that stuff is going on, right? Make sense? Okay. So PR, P, check, PR, check, pass. QRS. What do we have in the QRS?
It's regular.
It's regular. Regular meaning. What's the distance?
Less than .12.
Amplitude 180.
The distance between them all are the same.
Yeah.
Distance equidistant, good, and but the spacing itself. If you just
We
isolate
didn't talk about amplitude.
That is still 0.08.
the amplitude, so if you had something like this with the hypertrophy thing, if you had something like, yeah, you guys have a ventricular hypertrophy. Because it takes so much energy, so much electricity to contract that ventricle. It's so big, fat, meaty. You put this on a professional athlete, that's what it's going to look like.
Yeah, I'll just look up the amplitude for a normal QRX complex.
I think it's
What about the boxes?
They're the
Definitely,
same.
probably less than 3.
Oh.
Less than 3. Less than 3. Okay. So QRS, pass?
Yeah.
Pass? Okay. Is it regular?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll give it a pass?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Rate.
Fast.
It's too fast. So
Tachycardia.
faster.
Let me feel.
Now question, what if your blood pressure was like 110 over 60? Should that happen?
Yeah. So, okay. I don't want to hold that thought for 1 second. So these guys right here, they all pass. What does that tell us?
Sinus rhythm?
It's a sinus rhythm. Okay, so the sinus. This guy down here, it's fast. What does that tell us?
tachy.
What's the rhythm?
What do you mean?
It's a sinus rhythm and it's fast.
Science tech.
Sinus tachycardia, right? Makes sense, right? Okay. Is sinus tachycardia a life-threatening rhythm?
If you're exercising, no.
No. You're on the treadmill. You drank too much coffee. You're mad. You're in pain. You have a fever, infection, whatever, right? Every single one of us could be in sinus tach. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong. So since we're talking about drugs and treatments and all that stuff, sinus tachycardia, underlying causes. You have a fever. Treat it. You're in pain. Treat it. You have an infection. I guess that's fever, right? Treat it. You drank too much coffee. Stop drinking so much coffee, right? You're nervous. Exercise, right? There's nothing wrong with a sinus tachycardia. So you have a sinus tachycardia 112 and your blood pressure is, since you're running on the treadmill or you're nervous or you're in pain, you're 150 over 95. Well, that's what I would expect for a sinus tachycardia. If you were 112, but your blood pressure, I'm not going to go too far into this, but your blood pressure was 60 over 40, good or bad?
Bad.
You're decompensating.
Bleeding out.
You had such a bad fever for so long, your heart started to get tired. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but your heart was much higher. You were, 200 beats a minute. As the heart rate started to come down, your blood pressure came down as well. So you're decompensated. Okay. I guess I kind of have to talk about it now. Okay. You're normal. You have a heart rate of 80. You have a blood pressure of 120 over 80. Your respirations are good. Your stats are good. Everything is cool. Someone walks up and stabs you, right?
Your art skills are impeccable.
Thank you. You get stabbed.
Isn't it Indian? What?
Your heart rate.
It's a knife.
Psych.
You got shanked. Come on, you remind me now. Learn the words. You got shanked. So you start bleeding out. Now this could be any type of shock. There's a bunch of different shocks. My analogy works the best with this one. You start bleeding out. You start losing volume. What happened? What's that called?
Loss of volume.
Okay, give me the medical term. Remember? Low. Low
Low
is
blood pressure?
hypo.
Oh.
Volume.
Bulimic.
Bulimic. Okay, so this loss of volume, what happens? The heart says increase heart rate goes up, volume's going out, heart rate goes up. Make sense? To maintain. Heart rate goes up to maintain a good blood pressure. Okay? No big deal, so we're good. You come up here to the peak, your heart was at, I don't know, whatever, man, 200 beats a minute, whatever the number is, I'm making stuff up. After a while, your heart starts to get tired. Your heart rate went up to keep the volume constant. As the heart gets tired, heart rate slows down. What happens with blood pressure? That goes down as well. So right here, this whole thing is shock. Here, you're in compensated shock. How do I know you're in compensated shock? Heart rate's fast. You're compensating. Your blood pressure's good. You're compensating for a hypovolemic thing with high blood pressure and high heart rate, right? So when you start coming down, nailed it?
Yeah, everybody passed. Good.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Did you get the ankle one? Told you.
So you're compensating. You want this one?
On the road.
You want this?
Huh?
You want that?
Hold up.
She got the nice and warm for you. Okay, so as compensated shock means from a number of things. As the heart rate comes down, what type of shock are you in?
Decompensated.
Decompensated shock, right? Back. So if you saw a sinus tach with a high heart rate, 112, and a crappy blood pressure, are you in
That's
compensated or decompensated shock?
Decompensated.
Decompensated. You have to. There's nowhere else you could be. You have to be decompensated shock. Make sense? So far so good?
So your
has-
decompensated shock, you have high heart rate, low blood pressure.
Correct.
Okay.
So, now what's going to happen? Then everything's going to start crashing down too. Because the heart's getting tired, doesn't have that contractile ability anymore, blood pressure comes down, then before you know it, doesn't have the contractile ability.
And then you die.
That's where you come in,
And save a life.
And then save a life.
and you give them what, so they're here, right? Since the dude got shanked, what would you give him?
Say what?
Blood,
Since he got
Blood.
shanked, he's hypovolemia. Okay, we don't have blood. We're in the back of the truck.
Fluids.
Give
Fluids.
him-
Fluids,
Underlying causes for sinus tach in general. Make sense? Cool? So
When
good?
are we going to be in the back of a truck?
I plan on having.
You ain't gonna be in my truck, I'll tell you that.
I'm assuming you're talking about truck.
I'm in
Yeah.
ambulance, I don't know what it means, no.
I mean, in certain people's trucks, you might have fluids. You never know.
Oh my God.
Talk to my sister. She gets fluids all the time.
Yeah, my neighbors would call me all the time when they were hungover to do an IV and give them fluids all the
I need
time.
fluids too.
Oh, you took a completely different fluid.
But she gets in food
I don't know, you said it say back of the truck.
I'll put it on.
I mean, yeah, let's fill your veins with that.
Perfect.
I hope you guys remember this is being recorded.
That's fine.
For the rest of the class.
Fine. We're all grown.
As a disclaimer.
We are?
Okay, let's
Okay.
apologize and say skip through that.
There was important
Edit.
stuff in there.
So we had sinus braiding, we had normal sinus, and sinus tach. Those are really there's more, but those are your three big normal rhythms. Makes sense, right? Okay. Now, in the book, when they talk about the heart blocks, they tell you that there is a heart block. Might as well draw it out. Here's what we have. Right? So according
Perfect
to
lines.
what?
You've missed all of his impeccable drawings.
I'll draw the knife again later. Okay.
Is that the
Well, no, you're doing it wrong.
alright, alright.
Okay. What do we have?
P wave.
P wave. Because you have to look at it and say, well, it's this because it's this, you have to break it down into
Well,
pieces.
P-Wave's normal.
How do you know it's a Porsche? Because it says made in Germany on the back, right? Not because you've seen a Porsche in a magazine, right? Okay. P-Wave, good or bad?
Round, normal, yes.
Good.
It's good.
Very Porsche-like.
Start with a P, look at that.
I can draw my R first.
PR.
Peer interval, what do
Too
we
long.
have? Too long.
Too long.
Whatever, the rate's 58, it doesn't matter, right? Okay, so QRS.
Normal.
Yeah, sure. Right, good enough.
Your
Okay.
drawings are. Just kidding. They're great. I was saying they're great.
Listen, he's taking
must be
his
the marker.
time out.
Yeah, it's the
Let's
marker,
just shut
yeah.
up.
It's
Before he walks out on us.
Regular. I
It's
mean,
regular, yeah.
yeah.
Rate, you know what, whatever, it's 68, I changed my mind, right?
Rate's
The rate's good, okay.
Yay.
What do we notice? PR interval. What did the book call that?
Was it a first degree block?
First degree heart block. The book made it very, very clear. What do we do for first degree heart block?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Prepare.
Well, that's like second degree, third degree, right? Okay. But even the book
Prepare
tells
for
you really
next
you
block.
notice it. Professor Stout said it. You move on. Oh, yeah, you have a prolonged PR interval. Okay, what's your blood pressure? You're 130/76. Okay, you're good. Cool. No worries. Moving on. Okay. Usually, with a first degree heart block, right? First degree AV block, or it could just be heart block. Either one, totally acceptable. You'll have a slow rhythm. Why is your rhythm slow? Well, you have this giant thing slowing it down.
But is it one or isn't it kind of growing? It's getting bigger.
Well, this
It's
is
not
just
supposed to.
drawing.
Okay.
That's just
That's
the
just the
drawing.
drawing. It's not supposed to.
Let's just do
Okay.
one more maybe.
Wait.
Well, I'm gonna do one.
They'll make it
Okay.
obvious.
Oh, so that isn't getting
Draw it
bigger.
better for Giselle.
Alright, so it's
That's
just,
fine.
it's just the PRI segment that's getting bigger?
Correct.
No.
It's not
But
getting
it-
bigger, it's
not-
just
not
already
the
big.
PR.
Correct. Yes, thank you. It's not getting
Okay,
bigger.
so it's just, it's an equidistance.
Yes, it stayed the same. Now, you'll have your boxes,
Oh.
right? You'll say, oh yeah, it stayed the same, right? I'll show you one in a second when it's getting longer, but for the most part, they're just gonna be a prolonged peer interval. Huh?
She said the top one.
It is.
So whenever the
Yeah,
PR
leave
interval
that
is
one.
long,
The
that's
PR
whenever it's a first degree heart block and you don't really do anything. with it.
Correct.
You just kind of make sure it doesn't get any worse, kind of.
It's not. It's not. And here's why. A first degree heart block is not a heart block. It is not. They put it in the book with the heart blocks because they don't have nowhere else to put it. All it is you have a slowed conduction. So when you have, let's see, what's that here?
But let's go by the book though, because
Yeah,
that's how
'cause-
our test is gonna be.
Well, even the book says it. You don't do anything.
Okay.
But they put it with the heart blocks because they don't know where else to put it.
But I'm saying let's call it a heart.
They did.
Okay.
He's just saying that.
I'm sorry.
It's a normal sinus rhythm with a prolonged pure interval, but they put it with the heart. Now that's not that book, that's every book. They put it with the heart blocks because they don't know where else to put it. But the point is, a first degree heart block will not turn to a second degree, will not turn to a third degree. A second degree could flip back and forth, third degree, second degree, type 1, type 2, whatever it is, but a first degree will stay as a first degree. Okay? So, with that being said, what do you do for a first degree heart block?
Nothing.
If it's bradycardic, 40, and they have a crappy blood pressure, atropine, oxygen, as Ike said, give them an epinephrine infusion, right? A norepi infusion, as Danny said, a neosynephrine infusion, which I don't even know, whatever. But anyway, identify it, move on. This is a cardiology problem. That's not your problem. As far as like ACLS says, advanced cardiac life support, that's not your problem. Okay. You want to continue with heart blocks?
Yeah, can we just
Yeah.
do what we did last week?
Here, do like second degree for like.
Third degree,
Whatever
more
we did,
bits.
whatever we did last week.
Close.
No, right.
Well,
Yeah, just kind of
I'll
Because
draw
I didn't
all.
really understand what the hell he was talking
I
about.
don't understand the lines and the axis and the.
Yeah, that's not really my.
Too much. Don't look at me like that, it's too much.
It really is, yeah.
It's a
I
lot.
have to reread it.
I haven't read for yesterday, I mean, for yesterday yet. That's what I said.
40 questions for our intro, so,
The hard blocks.
and it,
Yeah,
it was
I
like
don't have
2 weeks.
It is.
So with EKG, with all the information, I thought it's gonna be like 70.
But I don't
Oh,
get
hard.
that because I see on his syllabus.
Yeah, but, but you know how like, you know, Miller, he has, a lot of times we do a class and then he doesn't actually do it on the exam. But I mean, I don't know, he said up to hypertrophy, we can email him and ask and be more
Yeah.
specific.
And then he said, learn the objectives, basically.
Well, yeah.
Who, Miller?
I don't know if he's gonna send those.
Sal.
Like the summary objectives?
In the beginning of the class, you know, on the
I think
slides.
Like whenever it's like on the PowerPoints, those objectives.
Gotcha.
So, including that.
Yes.
Look at the PowerPoints, we're gonna email and we can ask them.
What do you notice about this one?
First degree hard.
Why?
Because it's long, regular
Long
sinus
PR
variables,
segment.
but everything else is regular.
And the PR interval is the same length.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's constant, right? So, yeah. First degree. Good.
Okay.
What do you notice about this one?
That
It's
is
not regular.
not regular.
That is not regular.
And you
The
skipped a
PR,
QRS.
the
There
PR
was
intervals are increasing and then a dropped QRS.
And there's
Long.
one
Regular.
QRS gone.
Longer, longer, drop.
Oh,
Regular, longer, longer, and then that would have been a drop, but I ran out of room.
Okay.
Okay.
So a progressively
It's
lengthening
Second degree,
second degree,
type
Type 2.
1 or type 2?
second degree,
Wait, so progressively, what do you call this?
a lengthening PR interval with a
So-
dropped complex. Okay.
No.
Isn't it-
One.
Isn't type 1 like, it's like every, almost like, it's like a regular drop?
Yes.
Is that what it, type 1
For
is?
the
But the
most
PR
part.
intervals getting
Yeah,
longer.
yeah, yeah, all second degrees are getting PR intervals getting
No.
longer.
So now depending
The
on the
second one
story,
stays the
they're
same.
gonna say, well, the type 1 is worse, or the type 2 is worse. I don't know if it's that easy, because you can ask 10 cardiologists, 4 will tell you, well, this one's worse, 4 will tell you that one's worse, 4 will tell you, I don't know, ask 10 cardiologists, and 1 will tell you, no, so 4 will tell you, I don't know, 4 will tell you this one's worse, 4 will tell you that one's worse, 1 will tell you, I don't know, ask somebody else, and 1 will tell you, well, it's all relevant to other things going on. If, for the most part, usually, you'll have, what do we have here? We have 1, 2, that's it, that's all I did was,
1, 2, 3.
yeah, okay, yeah, we're good. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So what do we have? We have 4 to 3. Right? You see where I got that from?
Yeah.
4 to 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Drop.
4 P waves, only 3 QRS waves.
Right?
Or complexes.
Usually, it may not be 4 to 3, but it will be 5 to 6, 5 to 6, or 6 to 5, 6 to 5, 6 to 5, 6 to 5, 6 to 5. Maybe you'll have a 5 to 4, 6 to 5, 6 to 5, 6 to 5, 6 to 5. 3 to 2, 3 to 2, 3 to 2, 3 to 2, 2 to 1, 3 to 2, 3 to 2, 3 to 2. Make sense? So usually you'll know where the drop is coming. Could you have something crazy? You have a 3 to 2, and then a 2 to 1, and then a 4 to 3, and then a 5 to 6, or whatever. You could. Unbelievably rare. Probably not going to. That's more reserved for this guy down here. So people will say, oh yeah, well, this one's better because you know the drop is coming, you can prepare for it. People will tell you, well, this one's better. You know that lengthy PR interval and you're not losing more cardiac output. Believe the book says this one's worse.
Is the first
No.
one called weekend box?
Oh, that's what I was getting to.
What is it?
Okay.
Yeah.
Secondary type 1 or Mobitz 1.
So this is.
Mobitz 1. Okay?
Alright, so type 1 is a dropped QRS and progressively lengthening PR segment.
Correct.
Okay. I do not remember that vaguely.
Secondary
You
type.
don't remember anything?
I don't think I've ever seen it in the, I've seen countless of these. I don't think I've ever seen any of these.
So which one goes to AV number 3?
Third degree, they both could. I believe the book says this one's more likely to. Pretty sure. Because you have that lengthening, and the pure interval's all screwed up. What's the big thing with the third degree? There is no pure interval. Here, well, your pure interval is all over the place. That's
So the second one is second degree too, but it's type 2?
correct. That we're working our way there.
Okay.
That's
I thought
right.
it was type 2 that leads to third degree.
It
They
can.
both could.
Yeah, both of them
Okay,
can.
but which one's more aggressive?
I believe the book says this one is. You can ask 10 cardiologists and they'll tell you something different though, right? So this one, we call that going, going, gone. It's going, it's going, it's going, it's gone. Make sense? Going, going, gone. So,
Right.
second degree, type 2, right? Second degree, type 2. What do you notice here? Well, this one's usually all over the place. It could be regular. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, that should have been 5 to 4. So we have 4 to 3. We have 5 to 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 to 2. You see that, right?
So it drops QRS, no lengthening P wave. Is type
Correct.
2.
You could have 4 to 3, 4 to 3, 4 to 3, 4 to 3, 5 to 4, 5 to 4, whatever, or it could be all over the place like this.
So what is that lengthening in between each one of them?
That's
The
the
drop
drop
to
to
QRS.
Oh.
For whatever reason, don't ask me why, when you had your nodes of conduction, it's going normal, it's getting slower, it's getting slower, it's getting slower, and eventually it's like, shit, start over.
So that's your type 1.
No, type 1, oh, say the whole thing.
Your
Second degree.
second degree type 1.
Thank you, okay.
Is there a first degree type 1?
No, just
There
as
you
the
go,
first degree.
type 1.
But you have a first degree heart block. So, oh, that's type 1. Oh, yeah, that's type 1. Yeah, type 1 heart block. Yeah, type 1 heart block.
Okay,
You got me?
so your type 1 is when your SA progressively shoots
Your,
slower.
say the whole time.
What?
Your second
Your
degree
second-
type
You know
1.
where I'm coming from now.
Okay.
But yeah, so your SA starts
Progressively longer.
shooting slower. Okay.
No.
Layman's terms, people.
The essay's not shooting slower. The conduction to the AV node, for whatever reason, is taking longer and longer and longer.
Okay.
So the AV is taking longer to process it, we'll
Hence the
say.
term conduction block. Gotcha.
Nailed it. Going, going, gone, right? So we have.
Instability.
Well, what do you do for a second degree type 1?
Oh wait, so this is.
What can you do for
called
this?
Monitor.
Monitor, prepare for worsening.
Second degree
Right.
first.
Call your friend the cardiologist, because we're not cardiologists.
Yeah.
Right? They're probably gonna get a pacemaker. Okay.
For which one? From
This one up here,
second or?
secondary type 1.
You should get a pacemaker.
Mobit's 1, yeah, they're probably gonna get a pacemaker,
For secondary type 1?
I wonder if the same.
because they're probably gonna flip to third degree.
Jesus.
Now, as far as drugs that we give, yeah.
Question?
Yes,
Danny.
Danny,
Thanks. So first degree block can also, can be called like a conduction block, right? Or no?
they throw it in with the heart blocks.
So it's, okay.
So the,
But all of them
so
are.
for it to be a conduction block, what are the like specifications? Because I'm asking, mostly, just to like, just to clarify.
Rolled you right under the bus.
yeah,
Well, no, because now
know.
you're making me question it. So I'm like,
I can't answer why the conduction's not going through.
no, what is a conduction block? Is it just, is the conduction block the act of it slowing down or the act of it not going through?
Not going through.
Okay,
Dropping the beat.
okay.
Okay.
Which is under the categorization of
Heart block.
Okay.
Or they may say AV block. AV block, heart block, interchangeable. So if you see it on the test, oh, he's in a secondary AV block, you're like, what the hell is an AV block?
And then secondary
Atrial ventricular